Welcome to Rock Docs, a podcast about music documentaries. I'm David Lizerbram, here with my co-host,
Andrew Keatts.
And today we are talking about the Netflix film, Trainwreck, Woodstock 99. Not to be confused with the HBO film, Woodstock 99. What was it called? Music, Love, and Rage, or something like that.
Peace, Love, and Rage?
Peace, Love, and Rage,
Peace, Love, and Rage.
Which we discussed in a well-regarded episode of Rock Docs last year.
Yeah, you don't even have to scroll back much in your feed because we put it out recently.
We just reran it.
We just reran it.
So this is yet another in the entry of Woodstock 99 documentaries.
Mm-hmm. Which we're gonna we're not gonna be able to avoid comparing these movies. We're in Dante's Peak and Volcano, Deep Impact, Armageddon. What else did you say?
Firefest and Firefest. We're doing a straight up 11th grade paper compare and contrast right here.
Yes, that's
just
right.
Good old fashioned.
Yes, but they are very different, despite being despite coming to the same broad conclusion about this festival. The movies get there in very different ways. So I think it'll be an interesting discussion. I can't promise that. I think the idea of comparing these two movies is a good one. I don't know if we'll be good at having that conversation.
Okay. Before we get into that, though, you have some Woodstock related news for us.
Yes. So I attended a concert at Bethel Woods, which is where there's a venue at the site of the Woodstock, the original Woodstock now. There was a concert by the band Fish, who I like, and I think you also like, right?
Biggest fan.
Okay.
Love him. So this was the site of the original Woodstock, 1969, not the more famous and well-regarded Woodstock 99.
Yeah, and also not Woodstock 94, which was in yet a third location.
And not Woodstock 50, which didn't happen, but was supposed to happen somewhere else.
Yes, in fact, indeed. In fact, it was at one point supposed to happen at Meriwether Post Pavilion, where I also saw Fish this summer. But a few weeks after that concert, Trey Anastasio, and we'll stretch our technical prowess here and see if we can throw in a clip of this.
We'll see. Trey is he's associated with Fish in some way.
He's Mr. Fish. They call him.
They call him the Fish.
Yeah.
Except that's the other guy in the band.
Right. So he was doing a solo acoustic concert at the Beacon Theater, and he was sort of some stage banter. Discussed the fact that he walked out at the venue, and it's these rolling hills that you would see in central New York, and the Bethel Woods venue is a classic outdoor shed that is not on the hillside, not the valley where Woodstock 69 occurred. It's like a neighboring valley. So you walk in, it's just more suitable for a venue.
Understood.
Okay. But when you walk in, you can look out at where the original Woodstock was, and they have like a little marker, and you can see it all, right? It's very reminiscent of the photos because it's the same place. So Trey Anastasio discussed being there and having somebody point out where it was, and that he immediately recognized that under no circumstances were 500,000 people present for a festival that took place in the valley he was looking at, because it wasn't big enough.
Right. He talks about how he's done a lot of shows.
Yes.
He's done a lot of concerts. He knows approximately the number of people that are attending a particular show.
And that is just absolutely untrue.
Hey, man, you want to see the original stage where Woodstock was? And I was like, sure, man, that's cool. Go see the Woodstock stage. And, I walk over the hill, and Sue and I were there, and I look down, and I'm like, wait a minute. Have you guys ever been there? There is no way there was 500,000 people in that. I'm sorry, I play a lot of concerts, I can usually gauge how many. I'm not trying to be sacrilegious here. Sorry.
And so he starts poking around on the internet, and sure enough, there's a cottage industry of internet sleuths who've concluded the same. Or as he says, there are engineers on the internet who have outlined their research on the matter conclusively, which, gotta say, is the most 9/11 conspiracy theory that there is, that engineers on the internet have debunked the official story.
There was a guy on Alex Jones talking about the Woodstock population.
Right. Yeah. There are a lot of people out there. They're all crisis actors. But like, I sort of I just find it like totally plausible that all of the massive festival numbers from that era are inflated. That Watkins Glen a few years later with Grateful Dead and the band and Allman Brothers was not in front of 600,000 people, as was said at the time. That Paul Simon in Central Park. I understand. My understanding is that like it's pretty well known that Garth Brooks in Central Park is not as big as people say it is. Are you familiar with this?
It was not a million
discourse.
People. Yeah, it was not a million people. Yeah. If you've attended a notable concert,
yes,
the incentives are either for you to overinflate the number of people and be like, there must have been a million people, or to say, like, I saw My Morning Jacket in a bar with 3 other people.
Right.
Like, those are the, that's somehow there's some social cred that goes along with it.
With either of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just saying, like, I was at a concert and the number of people that were supposed to be there were in fact there, more or less, and the fire codes were observed, is not interesting.
Right. Yeah, the fire codes were observed. Well, and like, the human brain is not going to be good at being one of 100,000 and immediately discerning the difference of being one of 500,000. Both of them are just going to seem way bigger than you can imagine. Just a sea of people either way. So somebody tells you'd be. I think it's understandable that you'd be very suggestible about the size of that crowd.
Yeah, I mean, I know from going to plenty of sporting events where on the screen there's like the game to guess, A, this number of people, and B, this number, and it might be differences of thousands of people.
Right.
Where like in your normal life, 1,000 people is a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's, but you can easily be off by 3,000 in guessing the number of people who are at a Padres game on a Tuesday, and you're not shocked that it was 39, not 36.
In any case, if you're interested in getting to the truth, Google Trey Anastasio Woodstock. All right, the truth is out there.
Trey Anastasio Woodstock Truther YouTube.com.
We've got to print the bumper stickers and start slapping them on every stop sign on your way to work.
Yes, ask the question, people.
Yeah, that's right.
People are not asking. All right, well, let's talk about a concert that a lot of people did attend.
Yes.
And all had a lovely time. This is Woodstock 99. So, okay, first of all, this is the Netflix series. It's a 3-parter. Nominally, we talk about films in this, but we have long since abandoned that principle.
Yeah, or whenever we want to. We abandon it.
Yeah, exactly. It's called Trainwreck Woodstock 99, except that apparently in some countries it's called Clusterfuck Woodstock 99. I don't know.
Okay.
I've watched this movie in 3 different countries, not because I'm that cool, just because I was recently traveling and I had to watch this because we're doing a podcast about it. And so all those, it was Trainwreck, but I don't know.
Is it possible that there's like some cultural norm in some country that's just like a train wreck? People would die. It would be grim, horrible, and that would be more offensive than a meaningless term like clusterfuck.
It kind of seems to make sense. Like an actual train wreck would
be horrifying,
an unpleasant thing to be involved in.
Yes.
A clusterfuck, I don't know. It could go either way.
Yeah, exactly. It's just 2 words.
Okay, so directed by Jamie Crawford, who's directed a bunch of TV episodes, things like that. Not known for previously directing rock docs or that kind of thing. And so. Why don't you lay out how the kind of framing of this film, we'll say, and also maybe a little bit of how it differs from the HBO film that we talked about last time.
From a year ago. So this movie is in 3 parts, and each part is basically a day of the festival: Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's basically a TikTok of the event. It goes through the lead up to the event and then all the way through each day of the festival. And that's really the way it litigates the case that this was a horrific event and a failure of the promoters to keep the people in their care safe. Whereas the other movie, much shorter, marshals an argument that that event, as horrible as it was indicative of the culture of the time, and that it spends actually quite a bit of time referencing what else was going on in popular culture in 1999. And it's not that the Netflix movie is uninterested in tying Woodstock 99 to the culture. It's inevitable that these bands are cultural, and MTV was a big part of what was going on at this festival. So it's not uninterested in it, but it spends a much less time putting this festival in the context of 1999 than the predecessor does.
Right. So the inevitable result is that you end up blaming the promoters even more.
Yes.
Which, if you watch the first movie, you know the promoter is Michael Lang, who did the first Woodstock and came up with the idea for this one, and John Scher, who was the sleazy money guy behind the whole thing. If I may impugn his character, John, come on and once again. I'm saying this again.
He skips suing these two other big budget films, and he's just like, that asshole called me sleazy. That podcasting dickhead.
Cher, if you want to come on here and defend yourself, you are invited on Rock Docs anytime, and we'll just light you up in person. But that's fine. Okay, so
but what I re-listened to our episode just to make sure I wouldn't repeat myself over and over again, as I say over and over again. But you made the case in the last episode that by focusing so much on how misogynistic culture at large was, that the promoters of the festival kind of got off the hook on the previous film. And this movie really puts a lot of meat on that bone. Like, there is detailed accounting of how many corners were cut and profit motivated decisions that made people unsafe were made in the planning of this festival. Like, it is not just like theoretically the case that when you spend less time focusing on the culture, you would make a stronger case against the promoters. That's actually what happens here. They really build a case against John Scher.
Yeah, and it's this movie has a lot more behind the scenes. I mean, we're talking about like footage of planning meetings, interviews, contemporary interviews with people who were in the office, who were involved in the planning at all different levels. And, just a lot of that type of color you didn't get in the first one. And it is just a really interesting, since the whole point of this podcast is documentaries, it is a really good example of how you can take the same subject and sort of the same tone or approach. Like neither filmmaker wants to say this festival is underrated or was a good thing that happened. They're both like, this is a catastrophe.
Yeah.
And they use not necessarily the same footage, but a lot of the same. They have a lot of the same content, and yet two totally different experiences watching the movies. A lot of things in each movie that I'm like, how did they leave this out of this other one?
Yeah.
And we could talk about that. So that gives you a view into the choices that a director makes,
right?
Filmmakers make when they're making documentaries, which is, if you care about documentaries and listen to this dumb podcast, then I found that interesting, like as from a formal perspective.
So maybe this is a good time to mention here, as long as we're laying out some of the differences. This movie, I'll go ahead and say, maybe more than any movie we have ever discussed, I am not sure that this is a rock doc at all.
Okay. Make your case.
I mean, there's very...
Do I have to stop the recording? Have we misled our audience?
If you are looking down and the runtime of this episode is like about the time that it is right now, congratulations. The Rock Docs run is over.
If you want your money back.
I mean, there's almost nothing about the music in this movie. And there almost is no music. And there's very little discussion of the music. I mean, like... It's a music festival. Inevitably, musicians appear. There are clips of people on stage, but very, very little. I mean, you're like an hour and a half. There's like 10 or 20 minutes left in the first part when you get the first at all extended bit about music, and it's about Korn, and they go over Korn's set. But like the first hour and a half of this movie is like devoid of music.
Yeah, there's some kind of random selections of contemporary music from the time that they used to kind of just overplay, montages and stuff. But that's a good point. Yeah, there's very little rock in this doc.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and when they do talk, so the bands that get some sort of elongated treatment are basically the bands that had the most rambunctious crowds, the crowds where there was the best case to be made that something was going wrong. It's like Korn on Friday night, Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock on Saturday, and then Red Hot Chili Peppers on Sunday. But like the music themselves, what those bands are, what their music was like, what they sounded like, what people liked about them, is really ancillary to the discussion. It's much more about like what was happening in the crowd at that moment, what was happening on stage at the moment. There's like discussion of like the way that the bands acted, but even that, it's like them being dickheads from like an administrative perspective,
right?
Yeah.
That's that. Yeah, I mean, they talk about the energy of the music and the choices that are made by the musicians in the moment. Specifically, Fred Durst inciting the crowd to like basically tear the place apart. Right. And then, Red Hot Chili Peppers, when the whole like festival at the very end is being set on fire, choosing to play the Jimi Hendrix song Fire, Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire. Like, okay.
Fish played while I was at Bethel Woods.
Did you burn the place down?
No one burned anything down.
I mean, I bet also, that's
not true. Well done, David. But also no promoters like passed out candles through the crowd at the moment, which I have to say would have been a bad idea.
Let's talk about some characters in this movie.
Okay.
Because this movie has, I mean, the only characters other than some musicians that show up, but almost all of the talking heads in the two movies are different. They both interviewed Michael Lang and John Scher, the promoters, but other than that, everybody else is different.
Yeah, what Jewel is discussed appears in both, and that
briefly, yeah,
and she's very brief in this. Yes.
Yeah. But in terms of like the main character, I would say like the narrator of this movie, if there is one, is this reporter Dave Blaustein.
Yeah. He carries a lot of weight. He moves things along.
I wouldn't be surprised if he has the most spoken lines in this movie.
Yeah, that's probably true. I would agree with that, I think. Well, except for Cher or Lang.
Yeah. But he pops up all the time. He's like an ABC News reporter, I think, who was a young reporter making his bones at the time, and just was in the crowd, in the mosh pit, also at all the press conferences. Just you see him, contemporary footage of him in '99 and then now, talking about it, and he is very as a character in a movie. What did you think about him?
I gotta say, he's fine. I'm not to say I don't know that I would have done a lot better, but his descriptions are too pat. It's like they're pre-written.
Yeah, I was not sure if this was, he came in with essentially like a, 20,000 word article in his head.
Yes.
That he's written, that he, instead of publishing it in the New Yorker or whatever, it's like
he spoke it.
He spoke it here.
Yeah.
Or if the director, producers like coaxed him to like do multiple takes to get a certain tone, because he's just like rattling off lines that clearly are not off the top of his head. Yeah. I mean, obviously this is a big event in his life and he was thinking about it for 20 years and he's a reporter. Right. So I'm not holding that against him, but it's very TED Talky, almost like very practiced.
Yes, 100%. And I wouldn't actually be surprised if what you're saying is true, because he's sort of the through line that's building the case that they're making about the festival throughout. And his perspective is that he was an on the ground reporter that sort of just realized at some point that he was in a unique position to jump into the crowd and start talking to people about what was happening and start documenting it. And so I'm sure this is like probably the biggest thing that he ever covered in his career. I would imagine.
Yeah. And maybe he's just been dining out on these stories for 20 years.
Entirely possible. They do have that type of sound too, with like your uncle's.
These are well told stories.
Exactly.
Where he just knows where the points are going to land.
Yeah.
Then you get some of the festival attendees. So really, there's 4 main festival attendees we hear from, primarily. There is this woman, Sarah,
who gets trench mouth later.
At
right?
the very end, like she leaves the beginning of the third day because she got all these sores and gross stuff in her mouth and face because of drinking putrid, contaminated water. There is this woman, Heather, who
like is an absolute OG. They have a clip of her speaking to people when she was there, and like she's a child.
she's 14.
I said in the previous episode, like I was like 14 or 15 when this happened, so like obviously I wasn't old enough to go. Like she goes,
Yeah.
Like she is, and she looks like a 14-year-old. She might look like a 13-year-old. Yeah. So absolute
full
OG
braces, like tomboyish haircut. Yeah. Just she's a kid. She's having fun. Yeah. And then there's these two guys who are friends, Tom and Keith, who were like 16 at the time, and they're interviewed together now, and they were just like party dudes. Yeah. Who like this is their first concert and they're gonna go like hell yeah, we're gonna see Limp Bizkit and Korn and party and get wild, and all these people are great. Yeah, I mean I don't know how many people they talk to, but all these people are just great. Every single time any of them came on the screen, I was like, yeah, they
had really poignant memories.
Yeah,
they all had like really trenchant memories about the festival. Better, like I was thinking about it listening to him. I was like, could I speak that like clearly about early festivals or concerts that I went to when I was in high school? I don't think I could. I'd have like one or two good memories from each of them. And if you wanted to talk about that, I could probably throw those around, but that's about it. I don't think I could go chapter and verse through the whole 3 days or whatever.
Yeah, these people really have interesting things to say. They have different takes. Yeah. I mean, Sarah does not have positive thing because obviously there's a medical issue that happened to her as a result of the like disgusting situation. Heather talks about how she was groped in the crowd and she was like a super innocent young child, and this was all new to her, and and all this violence and craziness was happening. And then at the end, she's like, this was the time of my life.
They ask her, there's like a news crew interviews her at the time. They're like, would you come back again? And she's like, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, it's worth remembering, like, as horrible as this was, people left that festival thinking that they had just had a great time.
Yeah, that's not, I like that the movie's not afraid to show that.
Yeah.
And these two guys, Tom and Keith, who like, they were just partying. When the festival at the end devolved into a riot, they talk about how like, yeah, we went and rioted. We were breaking things up and stealing stuff. Like, why not? Everybody else was doing it. I mean, they talk about some things that happened during the show that were scary or difficult. But at the end, they both say like, this was probably the best time I ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like looking back 20 whatever years later, like this is the moment that I remember.
Right.
And, it's like, that's not to slight the victims and the people who were hurt and abused and everything else. Mm-hmm. And it's not to point a finger at these people who, but like there's 250,000 people there and some of them are having different experiences.
Yeah. So in terms of those people who were assaulted at the festival, you had made the point in our previous episode that at a certain point, the amount of nudity in that movie felt
in the HBO movie
felt over the top and unnecessary, and like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like almost at this point, like we're like using it for titillation,
right? Are we re-exploiting these people?
Re-exploiting these people. What did you think about the treatment of the incessant nudity in this movie?
Well, I just felt like there was less of it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I didn't do like a body part count or something, I don't have a tally, but it seemed as though that was featured less. There's not that there's a lack of nudity, but the first movie the HBO movie, they show the nude photo shoot of all those people getting together, and and there's more of a focus on that, on the fact that the camera was showing all these people live on the pay-per-view being nude, and like they glance over that in this second movie, the Netflix movie, but it's less I don't know, it's less of a feature.
So my perspective was, and I would be interested to hear if this was intentional from the directors, that I did not get the sense that there was less of it, but I did get a sense that what of it they used clips that had people getting groped.
Yeah, there was more of that.
They actually, like, even when they weren't talking about how common the groping was, and they were just showing, women flashing, almost every clip had a guy reaching up and grabbing them.
Yeah.
It came across, even when they weren't trying to make the point, it was over the course of the movie, the point was made that it was just rampant, constant, ubiquitous sexual assault.
Yeah.
And they just visually show it. They don't have to actually tell you. They're showing you every time somebody's flashing, they're getting grabbed, or weird dudes are
creeping around
them and closing in on a circle on them. So that was interesting. The other thing that comes across really well in this movie is how delusional the planners were about the event that they were planning right up until the event started. They book, you've booked Korn and Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock. You'd think that you are no longer under any apprehensions, that you are actually calling back to Woodstock, the original Woodstock. But they show here, they bring in the Tibetan monks to bless the festival, and they give dirty looks to this kid who points out that the bands that they've put together are going to bring a particular element. They seemed wholly unaware that they had not put together peace, love, and music.
Yeah, well, okay, so there's this guy, Lee Rosenblatt, who's one of the main talking heads, and I don't remember the title that he had, but he was a young junior person in the production office, involved in the whole planning of this thing. According to his version of the story, which he tells in this documentary, he was constantly blowing the whistle on everything going wrong, and everybody was blowing him off. I don't know if that's true or not.
Right.
It certainly is a compelling story in the movie.
Sure.
And I'm willing to believe that he said these things and that he was, in fact, blown off, but nobody.
And in fairness, there's a 22-year-old in every concert promotion that I'm sure is saying, guys, this actually isn't cool. You think it's cool. I'm the 22-year-old here. You should listen to me. And as long as the festival doesn't devolve into a riot and looting, he never gets to say, I told you so.
Yeah. But in terms of those, new metal type bands.
Yeah.
John Scherer's basically position is we needed to sell a lot of tickets and we booked the biggest bands. Same thing that they did at the first Woodstock. It was who gets the biggest bands we can get.
Right.
Michael Lang claims that he just didn't know these bands.
Right.
He was not familiar with their reputation, which is certainly a level of negligence that he does not seem to know he's admitting to.
Or just it's a, he seems to offer it as sort of exonerating.
Yeah.
When it's the opposite.
Not.
It's the opposite. It's
right.
Then you are a soulless capitalist bastard
or not even that, or just so checked out.
Yeah.
That you're spending a year of your life or more planning a festival for 250,000 people, and you don't bother to listen to the headliners.
Yeah.
Or read anything about them, or call up any person in the entire music industry you could find out about.
Again, even if they don't devolve into a riot, any festival where I was told that the main promoter didn't even know the headliners,
right,
I think less of that festival.
Yeah.
By a lot.
Yeah. It's not, that doesn't get you off the hook.
Right. Yeah. So, but I mean, this is easier to say during the first part on the first day, but they're talking about the Korn event, and they're talking about how crazy everyone was going, and that Jonathan Davis is talking about this as mosh pits on a whole other level that he's never seen in his performances before. And I'm is that just because of what happened later? You're thinking that? I mean, the clips that they have, it looks like an electric performance.
Yeah.
It's a giant crowd. Everybody's going nuts. She's putting everything into it. But how different could it have really been than Ozfest at that time?
Right. I mean, it's just more people.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell.
And some of it, it's it raises the question, when exactly is it that you start to hold the musician accountable for what the crowd's doing? When most of these raucous nu metal concerts were raucous, and didn't devolve into that. I mean, like Limp Bizkit playing, that was their biggest song that they play a day later that everybody starts destroying.
Right, break stuff, yeah.
Break stuff. Like, he wasn't supposed to play that? It's a weird case.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about you, but I have been to, I've been in my share of mosh pits.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, like, I mean, right about this time, like I saw Rage Against the Machine in like a big stadium where I was on the floor and like, you know, I don't know how, I mean, maybe there's 25,000 people there and not 250,000 people, but it's still a lot of people around. Like 25,
still enough people that if everybody decided to stop listening to Authority, it would be a big fucking problem.
Or just like people getting bashed around in the pit and thrown around and dehydrated and, you know, injuring themselves and whatever is not an unforeseen thing. Like it's not surprising.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I'm not, you know, everybody just keeps saying in this documentary from time to time, like, it was crazy. You couldn't believe it. The energy was, and I'm like, okay, you're telling me that. But yeah, there's points where I was just kind of like, all right, are you just overselling the fact that like, how different is it from any, you know, I don't know.
mean, the end of the corn set, the end of the first part, I kind of turn that off thinking, all right, so the corn set was basically fine.
Yeah.
No one got hurt. Really? Everyone raged?
Or there was 200,000 people there and some of them sprained an ankle or something, you know.
And then they go...
And that's not about the sexual assault. That's a different situation.
Different, yeah.
But the interesting thing that they did was then talk about the fact that like there was all this energy in the crowd and then Bush came out and closed the show. And I thought that was an interesting piece that they didn't talk about at all in the last movie. The fact that like Gavin Rossdale... kind of just like caught the vibe and was like, all right, I just need to mellow this whole situation out.
Yes.
And it worked.
Right.
Or at least that's the story they tell.
And they sort of make it seem like it was kind of embarrassing for him that like people, that's not exactly what people wanted. Right. That he was sort of like, he was like the elevator music as everybody was leaving.
But he still took it as a responsibility, or at least that's what he says now.
And then it basically concludes with, and that was also basically fine.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's sort of like maybe inadvertently, but it seems as though booking a somewhat mellower band after a super aggro band seems to be like a good idea. Like you bring the vibe down. Like that's what happens in a DJ set, you know, like you get up and then you get down. Like you don't just like go, okay, here's Limp Bizkit and see ya, you know, or here's Red Hot Chili Peppers and see ya.
Right. So part 2.
Yeah.
We should also say, and here somebody else who makes a run at maybe the most spoken lines in the movie, Ananda Lewis.
Yeah,
Ananda MTV VJ who was on the scene throughout this, and she does a great job too. I actually think she's a better narrator than what's the CBS reporter's name?
Dave Blaustein.
Dave Blaustein, yeah. So she does a great job, but she makes the case. She's like, Saturday was when things started going wrong. Saturday is when people start getting pissed off, and they really lay the groundwork in the first part that like the festival, to make the most money that they could, sold all of the vending rights to another company and gave them complete control in pricing.
Right, so that even the promoters could not. You know, even if they're on site and they're like, it's 1,000,000 degrees, people need water, you can't be charging $8. They couldn't do it. There's nothing they could do about it.
There's also no
I'm not sure if
indication
that's
that
true.
they wanted to.
Yeah, there's no indication they wanted to, and there's no real indication that they, you know, I don't know how true that is.
And it does, that's another constant through this movie that, you know, that they certainly mention in the previous movie, but I think they maybe lean harder into it here, that like the amount that people were getting paid or were getting charged everywhere they turned around at this festival really pissed people off.
Yes.
It was like a genuine inciting event of anger. Even the 4 people who, the 4 attendees who speak at length in this movie each say like, yeah, everyone was really pissed off that the water cost that much. That was not common at the time. And so it is interesting thinking of that as like a major inciting event in this whole thing, when like getting gouged at concerts is so table stakes of like attending concerts at this point 20 years later.
Yeah, but maybe it's just that everybody knows, or
we've just been beaten into submission over it now.
Right. I mean, but you know, there's also inflation. I mean, a $4 bottle of water in 1999 is a big difference from a $4 bottle of water today.
Yeah, but you can't get a $4 bottle of water today. You get like a $12 bottle of water at a concert.
maybe you buy fancy water. I don't know what kind of concerts you're going to.
I mean, no. That said, there is controversy that I see often about like festivals that don't have adequate water filling stations or don't let you bring in your own refillable water bottles.
Right, and we're also talking about a festival on a tarmac. Where you can't bring anything in, and it's 3 days, and it's like an unprecedented heat wave.
The other thing they do a great job is like how little attention to like the actual concert experience was paid to the promoters in terms of recognizing that they're on an airstrip and you need to provide shade. And that they didn't do it at all. Right. And that is very uncommon. You go to a festival now, like there's going to be some sort of art installation.
Misters.
Some sort of places that you can go to avoid the heat. And like, there's a lot of footage of people like crouching under delivery vans and stuff just to get a little bit of shade. So they do a good job of that. So we go back to the start of part 2, and there's like, again, almost no discussion of music.
No.
Right away.
Very little.
One weird thing I wrote down. Wyclef Jean, why the hell did he tell everyone to throw their bottles?
Yeah.
What a weird request.
He's an idiot.
What a strange thing to tell people to do. And the footage of the amount of people who listened to him is wild.
Yeah, he told 200,000 people to throw stuff at him, and they did.
And everybody else got hit. Most of them didn't hit Wyclef Jean.
Seems like he wasn't thinking that through.
Yeah.
So Fred Durst, Limp Bizkit, the place gets torn apart. Yeah. John Scher says, this is a quote, "I didn't take into account what a jerk Fred Durst is."
Yeah. He says something along those lines in the previous one. He really holds Fred Durst personally responsible for what happened at Woodstock 99.
Right. And okay, hang some of it on Fred Durst, fine.
No one here is coming to Fred Durst's defense.
Right.
No one. I'm not using this microphone that has been in front of me in 2022 to defend Fred Durst. Okay?
In 1999.
I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
You can't make me.
But, yeah, I mean, yeah, it does kind of seem like you book, Limp Bizkit, you get the Limp Bizkit show. What are you mad about? Like, I don't know. Like,
it's a really weird case that he should have done something different on, I think.
Or like that you expected him to do anything different than what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know what that is.
I don't really understand it either. I mean, people shouldn't have been tearing down the tower, but like one way to prevent that is to have adequate security around the tower so people can't just start ripping it to shreds.
Right. So then you get so all these people, they see Limp Bizkit. There's all kinds of violence. There's like in the medical tent, people just like, it's like mash up in there.
Yeah, that part is really good when the security guard describes like bringing people in and it's like a war scene in the medical tent.
Yeah. So then they go at the end. Everybody moves into the rave tent. Yes. Then you get Fatboy Slim.
So speaking of things that don't make it into the previous documentary,
yeah, not at all. Barely mentioned the rave tent.
Yeah, and they only mentioned that like it was this other place, but they basically say Limp Bizkit goes off. It's crazy. Everybody's amped, and there's no more music except for at one place, the rave tent. And everybody,
the rave hangar, rather.
The rave hangar, yeah. And everybody from the main stage is trying to get in. It's not even big enough, so it's just because it's growing out of the sides. It's massive. This is one area where you actually do have like footage, and it's like you see what this performance was like, and it seems pretty wild. Everybody's doing ecstasy. People are having sex in the crowd. Multiple people say, and then there's like what sounds like a pretty terrifying.
All right, hold on. Going. We'll get there. So first of all, Fatboy Slim. Yeah. Love that guy.
Okay, I assumed you like Fatboy Slim.
I'm just saying, like in this documentary.
Okay, yeah.
Like when he comes on and starts talking with his British accent,
he's got
and his slide
and a very British sense of humor about the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean it is good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah. You like to see that guy on screen. Like I'm like, give me a whole Fatboy Slim documentary. That guy's probably got stories all day long, and I want to see it. Yeah.
Right down to when he gets evacuated, he's like worried about his records. Yeah. They're like, "We'll get the records."
Yeah. So he says, I like chaos, and I like being at the heart of chaos. So that's kind of where he starts.
Yeah.
And he says he starts talking about like he starts playing, he's playing a song, and then he goes, "Now this is the part in your documentary where the low drone comes in," and it says, "At this point, things started going wrong." It was so like right. It's like I'm sure he's scored documentaries.
Right.
He knows the whole drill. He knows what he's being asked to deliver,
Yeah.
and he comes in and he knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, it's great. And so what? Like somebody they steal a supply truck.
Yeah.
And start driving it through the crowd in this tent.
Right. So there's like whatever, tens of thousands of people in this hangar. And all of a sudden, Fatboy Slim says he thought it was like a mobile dancing platform. Right. And then as it got closer, he saw that it was actually a vehicle.
Yeah. That had been stolen and was being driven by a severely blackout drunk person.
People are dancing on top of it. Yeah. The promoters are going crazy. And finally, this promoter talks about how like he finally, managed to get to the truck. And he saw a rusty machete, and I'm not actually sure who was holding that or what happened.
Yeah, I don't think he says clearly.
He doesn't
enough for
really
anyone to
clarify that.
Yeah.
And then he talks about how he opened the door and he saw like a passed out girl, maybe 15 or 16, her pants around her ankles, a guy just like pulling up his pants.
Seems like he had just raped her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it seems, I don't think there's any other way. And he says the girl was taken away in an ambulance. He doesn't know what happened to the guy. His focus was just like getting the truck into neutral and getting it out. So meanwhile, they've now stopped the music and like turned the lights on. So there's like all these tens of thousands of people in this place who are like on drugs, crazy energy, blah, 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 dancing to Fatboy Slim. And all of a sudden, party's over. Like lights are on. And Fatboy Slim just like, they like put him in a car
out of there,
and like, we're getting out of here. And he's like, I just followed the rules. And he's told, I guess off camera, about this girl in the truck, and he says that is hideous. Like, I'm just here for people to have a good time, to think that's happening. Now, here's another situation where I'm like, okay, hold on a second. This is the bullshit detector going off. Yeah. I'm not saying there's like sexual assaults happening at Fatboy Slim shows left and right or in this time, whatever. But people are talking about what's happening, and it's like Sodom and Gomorrah, and people are like lined up naked and just like a line of people behind them and all these things. And I'm like, is this that different than what's happening at some giant party in Ibiza that Fatboy Slim is playing, or some rave in Manchester or wherever, any other place? Like, I mean, come on. Like, let's not be naive here. Like there's, this was probably more so.
There's a bunch of people walking around. Everybody's on ecstasy. Like, yeah, I know, it's a rave.
Yeah.
They're all on ecstasy.
Like, people are overindulging in drugs and sex and whatever. And that's not, certainly there should be consent.
A weird conflation of that sort of that party vibe and the assaults and rapes that are happening at the festival, and they shouldn't be conflated. Those are different things.
Yeah, and it's all kind of mixed together in a weird way. Yeah. And there's like a weird judgment thing going on, and like it's also not like the original Woodstock was a chaste Christian festival. I mean, it wasn't that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So it just kind of treats that subject a little bit, I think. They could have made a little bit of finer distinctions between people partying and letting loose and having a good time versus sexual assaults versus what happens at a typical rave at this time versus what's happening here. I just would have liked to see a little bit more consideration of that.
So I think that's true. But what I'll say about this part of the movie is that between the sound crew having to like literally vacate the tower during Limp Bizkit's set because they were going to like trying to tear it down, and they needed to like flee, and the truck coming through, Fatboy Slim having to cancel the show, it being absolutely wild. Just the journalism of documenting how bad things got at this festival is much better than the previous movie.
Oh, they did a great job of that.
And just demonstrating how bad it was.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a different focus.
Yeah.
But it is, I'm not trying to make light of any of the bad things that are happening here.
No. It didn't sound like you were. That's not what I'm saying. But I just think
Fatboy Slim maybe was playing a little dumb.
Yeah.
And just the whole tone of it at that point, I was like, yeah, this is awful. Like, but also like maybe I was looking for like a little bit of a wider lens into the culture and like what was happening at other raves, like the 10,000 other concerts that Fatboy Slim has played. Like,
Right.
how, you know,
I mean, he said he wanted to be at the heart of chaos. That's basically what he does, right?
right. And so, okay.
So one question I have is, so Woodstock 94 is like, you know, it basically nothing happened. They just had a festival.
Yeah.
That's
There was a lot of mud. People crashed the gates. They didn't make money.
right. But like, you know, I know you hate this band. I like this band, but Blind Melon has like a very well regarded set from Woodstock 94. It's like what considered a classic set for Blind Melon.
Sure.
Did anyone at Woodstock 99 have something that was like regarded as like a great set? Like even in the context of that band, like for people who like that band, is there any sense from anyone that like great music happened even accidentally at Woodstock 99? Is there any discussion about Woodstock 99 beyond Riot?
I would say, I guess, it seems as though Korn,
Yeah. Jonathan Davis did seem pretty
especially in the last documentary.
Yeah.
Like he just talks about how that was just like such an incredible show and he gave his all. I think Metallica is not mentioned in either of these documentaries, although they played and are a rambunctious loud band. I think their Woodstock 99 performance is highly regarded in that community.
Okay.
But I don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But I just have that in my head.
Okay. Interesting.
So, okay, a couple.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe on the Mo was just tearing it up on the side stage. I don't know.
That's good.
Los Lobos.
Yeah. Let's find out what the Mo heads
When they
think.
did, Will the Wolf Survive? Just everybody went
Yeah.
crazy.
If you happen to be a huge fan of some band that was at Woodstock 99 that did not play a part in the riot, and you know that to be a very well regarded set, let us know. I'm just curious. You never hear about that.
Share a tape.
Yeah.
We'll check it out.
Like it's like Sheryl Crow's like, man, they were assholes, but like we fucking ripped that night.
I got to be honest.
We never sounded so good. Then part 3 starts, and there's something I wanted to mention here, which is that they talk about all through the festival, everybody was talking about all these rumored secret headliners that were going to come out.
Yeah.
And they're like Grateful Dead was mentioned.
Prince, Michael
Jackson, yeah. Festival rumors. Have you ever been at a festival where some piece of information traveled like wildfire through the crowd and just everyone knew it to be true even though it was not true?
Not quite like that. Like I've been at concerts like in LA where there was like, oh, I heard this so-and-so is going to come on.
Yeah.
But that's just a concert, I can't think of a specific, like you're saying.
When the first year I went to Bonnaroo, it was back when cell phone service was bad and you couldn't get it, and there was no news. You could not get news for the days you were there. Somebody on the first day started the rumor that Charles Barkley had died. And
okay.
as far as I knew, every person at that concert lived for 3 days under the belief that Charles Barkley was dead. And if you met a stranger in the festival, one of the more likely things you were to say to them was if they had heard that Charles Barkley had died, and then you would share your favorite Charles Barkley stories.
Okay.
Festival rumors. I think I want nothing but the best for Charles Barkley. I love Charles Barkley, but some group of people started that at that festival, and they deserve credit for it. That was awesome.
Yes.
That was an awesome thing to have done.
Okay, so Sunday, I don't think we need to go through everything that happens, because we've talked about a lot of it already. But I think where it really distinguishes this, movie distinguishes itself or goes, in a different direction than the last one is like talking about what happens after the fires during the Red Hot Chili Peppers thing. I mean, the other movie didn't even really get into this, which is fine. But like, just the like riots that happen after
And the looting.
Yeah.
Just like straight looting the vendors, like people going into like shelter in place mode because the wild ass kids are going to take their money.
Yeah. Well, they talk about how like all these people are just like dancing around these bonfires and tearing stuff up. And then like somehow the mob got the idea to go to the vendor village. So the people and there's like this Walking Dead, zombie crowd, you see them like heading towards the vendors. Some people who were on staff run down to Vendor Village and tell them, like, zip up the tents, like, duck and cover, just like try not to attract attention. And then you see people like in the office, like piling in and literally barricading, like, with like putting like wood against the door on the inside so people can't come in.
And kids like ripping ATMs apart.
Yeah. Now, people in the Vendor Village are ripping ATMs apart, and then you see how they started. There was like a series of trailers, whether these were for they're working or it was like artists staying in them or whatever, you don't know. But like people started lighting them on fire, and they had propane in them.
Yeah.
So just one explosion happening after another, and all that was new to me. Yes. I'm like, wow, dude, how do you not talk about this?
That was new to me too, and I was like sheepish about it. I was like, I knew that Woodstock 99 was a disaster. I did not know that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not like it was unknown. They're not like breaking new ground here. They have, newspapers from like the Oneonta daily paper that's like festival devolves into riots and looting.
Yeah.
The next day with pictures of the exploded trailers. Yeah. Then, like, it was, so people knew that this was more than, people lighting some bonfires that got out of control. They were deliberately causing the destruction of property, and they were called looters and rioters.
Yeah.
Correctly. But for the record. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, a couple of things. One thing that's I thought was a little strange was, again, not to make light of this, but in the first movie, there is they talk about somebody who died.
Yeah.
And in this movie, there's no death mentioned.
No.
And it seems like that's kind of a thing where if you're talking about a festival where people died and you don't mention that, it's kind of an odd thing to leave out.
Yeah. Well, so John Scher says at one point, I think he says this in regard to like rape and sexual assault, that, oh, well, we created a city of 200,000 people for these 4 days. And in a city of 200,000 people, there would probably be sexual assaults in a 4-day period.
No, he said there would be as many rapes over a weekend.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's a tragedy for anybody involved, but, it's just like any other city. And then he says it didn't gain enough momentum to cause any on-site issues. And I'm just like, how are you still hammering this line 20 years later?
So delusional.
Yeah.
It's so motivated thinking. Such motivated
Seems
thinking.
impossible, having watched both these movies, this person's not a sociopath.
I mean, it is.
It seems that there's no way to edit him or take him out of context. Like, there's a lot of him on film now.
Yeah. Now, I have heard somebody at a music festival say, well, it's 100,000 people. Like, would it be that crazy if somebody died over 4 days at a place of 100,000 people? No, never mind that, like, if it was a city of all people, like, aged 18 to 32,
right.
Yes, that would be uncommon in that case.
Yes, they're not dropping. Just do the math. Yes. By the end of a year, most of them are dead.
So, but it's like, for him to be saying it now, it's so self-serving, obviously, and unconvincing.
Yeah. So, anyway, so the not getting into the death part of it, I guess it's just a different story than they were telling, but
yeah, but I don't. So the other is, I think the question is like, why were these kids doing this? What caused them to start behaving like animals? Right. And multiple people compare it to Lord of the Flies, right? And it's an apt comparison. And the question is like, why? What happened here that didn't happen at the many other large festivals that have occurred where there was price gouging? And the answer offered here is like price gouging is like that people were were so uncared for. Well, it's not just price gouging; it's the lack of bathrooms, the lack of drinking water, the lack of shade, that they were
the heat,
that they were treated like animals, and so they started to act like animals.
Right. And maybe other festivals were playing with fire.
Yeah, and that's like the sociological explanation.
But also the bands.
Yeah, and then there's the bands, right?
Right.
And I think maybe the sociological explanation is right. It's like, if you make people behave like they're like fighting for their survival, they start to fight for their survival.
Yeah.
And But I guess maybe I'd want like a finer point on it.
Well, Heather says, the person who was like a young girl at the time, and now is like talking about how she's an adult, and she's a mom, and she's looking back on all this. She says, look, nowadays we would be like tearing this up on Snapchat and TikTok and whatever, but we had no other outlet.
Yeah.
The only outlet was to attack the venue, and
Yeah.
So I think that's probably part of it too.
So the one other thing I'll mention, because it was impacting amid all this much larger stuff, was when Jules getting ready to go on stage and her like people are like bucking her up for how horribly she's about to get treated. They're like, oh, they're gonna throw mud at you, they're gonna yell at you about taking her shirt off. Like they've been doing it all weekend. Sheryl Crow got it too. Like it's not just you. Yeah. And she like goes out there clearly like uninterested in walking out into that.
Right.
And it's like this very personal moment of like seeing a female artist being told to just go do it.
Right.
This is what's going to happen. You agreed to play this festival. They're going to treat you like a piece of shit, and you just have to go strum your guitar and sing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame her for going out there because it's her job.
Yeah, it's what she does.
Paid to do it. She certainly went. Talk about somebody who had a story where she had to eat a lot of shit to get to where she was. Yeah. And, a few years before this, she was living in her car, so, she does not taking it for granted, but, boy, that's a tough break. And Korn's Jonathan Davis, who comes off well in both of these movies and seems like a pretty articulate, intelligent guy. He's one of the last people to speak. And he basically just says like, that should never happen. He's like, a girl should be able to have fun just like a guy. Which is such a simple way to put it. Yeah. Like, we're here for people to have a good time and let off some steam, and it should not be different just based on that factor. I want to kind of, before we wrap, I want to shout out just a couple of things about this movie and a couple people. Mm-hmm. Somebody we haven't mentioned, but just absolutely crushes it, is this woman, Lisa Law. The older woman who was there for the
awesome.
first.
Who was there for the Woodstock? Yes, she's great.
And she's just driving around
with her daughter. Yeah,
her daughter Pilar was Michael Lang's assistant or something. And Lisa, maybe at the time was an older now she's an elderly woman, and she is feisty.
Yeah,
she gave me the Mo Tucker vibes.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Much, yeah.
I'm like,
totally.
She's an old lady who's seen it all, who's been through it all, and is not taking any shit.
Yeah, was totally unimpressed by the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, and she's just going around. She's like, all right, we're all going to clean this up. Like, this is in the middle of the festival. Like, before it even went crazy, like, he handed out trash bags and people were like talking shit to her. Like, I paid to come here. You clean it up, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, these kids are just assholes, Yeah. And, boy, she has it out. Like, she's been waiting to like have her say about this for 20 years.
Because she had a behind the scenes view, and she was a sensible person who was like, this is shit. Yeah. Everything about this
You're
sucks.
treating people like garbage.
Yeah.
So that was a, that.
Well, and so she and her daughter film footage that I think kicks off and concludes the movie of what the grounds looked like on Monday morning. And somebody, either her or her daughter, says, is this Bosnia? And it looks like fucking Bosnia. It looks like a bombed out
like some of you would see on CNN in 1999.
Yes.
Another weird turn that the movie takes, which I don't understand, is this guy who is like Dan Flynn, who is a head of security. Right near the end of the movie, he comes on and says, some people say that John Scher and the promoters like created all these riots and started them to like be able to sell more merchandise.
He's like, I don't know if I buy it.
Yeah,
like,
and
I'm not saying, but because of all the secondary money that comes with it.
Right. And Cher just says, like, obviously that's ridiculous. Like, and the movie doesn't make any case that that's true. There's no reason to believe that's true.
No.
And
I wonder if Trey Anastasia believes that's true.
Maybe. But it's such a weird, like, why would you leave that in the movie? Like, it's not, it almost makes Cher look like John Scher and Michael Lang look better for that moment because
he gets to debunk a crazy idea.
Yeah. And it's not supported by anything else. It's not like this is a commonly held view that we have to air.
I've never heard it.
It was just a weird. Like
Yeah.
you could have cut that 30 seconds out of the movie, and it would not have suffered at all.
Yeah, no need
Weird,
for it.
weird little thing. But hey, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, many engineers are saying.
I'd love it. Google Woodstock 99 truth profit. Yeah. These documentaries are proof.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a
You got to
long
read
tail.
between the
It's
lines.
still getting paid.
Netflix and HBO can't tell the whole story.
Yeah.
But they put the pieces out there for you to figure it out.
Right.
That's why there's two. You got to watch them both.
Yeah.
Compare and contrast. Listen
Yeah.
to Rock Docs.
And then pay attention to what isn't said in either of them. That's where you really know.
Okay. What else do we have about this?
Well, let me is this a music documentary? I mean, think about how little we have talked about music in this entire time.
Is it a music documentary? I mean, I guess, it's in the genre. I don't even know if the first one was.
I don't know. I've talked myself into the fact that the first one wasn't either.
We've done more episodes about this than anything else we've ever talked about.
We have to Stop Making Sense Now. There's music in that movie.
It's literally just music.
That movie is about music.
Why are we doing this? Anyway, I think it's just we started doing this podcast and the Rock Docs Industrial Complex just revved into Woodstock 99 gear. And we got caught up. We're like those crazy rioters.
Yeah.
We got caught up in the wave.
Before
we
we
could have
even
not
realized
talked about this at all.
This has nothing to do with music.
I don't know. But
in terms of the music, though,
okay.
It really is weird that this was the most popular music in the world for a time. That is really wild.
Yeah.
Like, that occurred to me when I was like watching Kid Rock like strut out in his like pimp gear and just doing the "My name is Kid" thing. Yeah. Like, that was the most popular music in the world for a stretch. That is very strange to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. There was like, grunge had happened and people were looking for something aggro and aggressive. There was this, wanting to incorporate hip hop because everybody in the music industry and MTV knew hip hop was the future and the present. But they also wanted to have white people on. Yeah. And Eminem hadn't come along yet.
Right.
So this is what you got, and you've got Kid Rock, you've got Limp Bizkit, you've got Korn. And, there was these sort of loudness wars on the radio, like the way this music was mixed just blew the speakers out. Yeah. You couldn't avoid it. Right. And yeah, it was such a weird phenomenon.
And really like a time capsule. Like, Kid Rock is still famous for like other reasons.
Right.
But like
whatever.
Like Limp Bizkit and Korn did not have like lasting careers doing what they do.
I mean, not on that level. Limp Bizkit and Korn are still popular.
Are they still popular?
They are. First of all, there's a Limp Bizkit thing going. Like there's kind of a little Limp Bizkit is cool trend.
Oh Jesus. I missed that. Fuck.
But I think if you like,
and they didn't have to at least to my ears, there was not a clear like sign of influence in the music after them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it kind of devolved into like the more like Nickelback-y,
which did not sound like this. I mean, it was bad, but
bad for different reasons.
No,
but like if I told you that Korn was headlining a pretty big hard rock / metal festival in
that wouldn't be shocking
Des Moines, Iowa this weekend. Yeah, you'd be like, okay, cool.
Most of the other bands were,
Black Label Society.
Yeah.
Like,
but Korn's also playing.
Yeah, sure.
Mastodon, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like you would be like, all right, that seems like it fits. But they're not on. I mean, there's no MTV anymore, whatever. But they're not popular in the same way. But that's true for nearly any artist who played. That's also true for like for the Jewel. I mean, she's also not like tearing up the charts, or Sheryl Crow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just part of like most people don't last as being a huge act for that long.
No,
that's not.
But
a
I
surprise.
do think that there's like a lineage in music that is pretty coherent across years, and nu metal stands out to me as like a weird diversion.
I just think everything eventually comes back. So just don't say anything where you're not going to in 3 years, like, or in 10 years, your 15-year-old son is like way into, fourth wave nu metal. Yeah. You'd be like, well, okay, I've got some documentaries to show you, son.
I do like that Method Man verse in that one Limp Bizkit song.
It's good. I have to admit, it is very good. He says, and here's like the world's best MC. And then Method Man comes on, and you're like, yeah, I mean, he might not be wrong.
Yeah, might not be wrong. Yeah.
That is good stuff. Anyway, so if somebody's just looking for a
that part where we just talked about like the music, that was way more musical discussion than occurred in the nearly 3 hours of that movie.
Right. No, that's true. Well, if somebody is looking to watch a movie and they have 3 hours and they're not interested in music, would you recommend this movie?
I think I'm out on these movies, man.
You're out. You're done with the Woodstock 99.
Yeah,
you came in all fired up. Give me all your
no.
Woodstock 99 content, and now you're
I think I'm out. I think I'm out on these. I mean, they're fine for what they are. I just I don't think I have any use for these movies.
I mean, I've recommended these movies to people who like crazy shit.
Yeah, I think that's what they are, right?
Like I've got friends that would just...
These belong on the aisle next to like the Manti Te'o documentary that just came out.
Sure.
Not next to Long Strange Trip.
Right. No, I've got friends that just would not be interested in sitting and watching 3 hours of Tom Petty running down a dream.
Which is hard to imagine.
I know. But they watch this because it's just entertaining mayhem. Right. And, they can sit in judgment of other people's bad behavior while also being entertained by it, which is...
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to take a
new metal's all about, I think.
I'm going to take a rare pass here. I think I'm out on the Woodstock 99 complex.
Yeah, I don't know.
That said, if you want to give me like a music-heavy Woodstock 94 documentary, I'm there.
You want to see Green Day slinging mud?
9 Inch Nails, Green Day, the like weird combination set between the surviving members of the band and the Grateful Dead without Jerry Garcia, even though he was alive. There for that. Hot Tuna, I think, was on stage too. I want all that.
I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed watching the movie.
Yeah.
As dark as it is, and I think it was well done. Let me put it this way. Yeah. Somebody's going to watch one or the other. And I know we interviewed the director, Garrett, of the first one, and much respect, guys. So, let's put that aside. Yeah. But, which one do you think, if somebody can only make time in their life to watch one Woodstock 99 documentary, which one is it?
I think I would tell them to watch the HBO doc. I think there's more music. There's no music in this movie, man.
I'm going to go with this one. Yeah. I don't know. I just think...
I think this does a better job of telling the disaster story. I think this is a better telling of the disaster story. But
I think the case that Garrett tried to make in the first movie about the overall culture is a sound case, but it's a little bit... there's a lot more work to get there.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you just see the evidence right in front of you.
That's true.
Of the negligence that was happening, and
the journalism is better in this movie.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of thing. You get some great talking heads, just some of the people that attended the festival or whatever, and that's just kind of happenstance. Like, hey, you just get a better draw of and all the information from the people that were there and the who worked on site, who were involved. They're all great in their own way. I mean, except for Michael Lang and John Cherry, who, whatever, they suck. Yeah, I don't know. That's my... I'll keep watching these things if they keep making them. And you will. We'll be sitting here doing another one.
Yeah, that's probably true.
It can't be avoided.
But that's because I'm sick.
All right. Well, that's been another episode of Rock Docs. Thank you for listening. Of course, you can find us at Rock Docs Pod on Twitter, which is where we get into it with people about stuff. And if you want to leave us a review, that'd be nice. All that good stuff. And thanks for listening to Rock Docs.